What's up everyone, it's Endymion, and we got some potential nuclear level rumblings happening over in the land of video games right now. From a consulting company going scorched earth on everyone who is criticizing them, and they're now even threatening legal action as well. That would include yours truly being thrown into the mix as well. Uh-oh indeed. And later on, I want to look at an article about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and how Barret Wallace is apparently not good enough representation for black players. I got some things to say about that as well. But first, let's dive into this whole potential legal situation, why it's happening and all of that. So, let's get into it. So you likely know about the whole Sweet Baby Inc. thing, they consulted on games and all that, and it basically caused Gamergate 2 to happen. Then once Sweet Baby was exposed, more consulting companies were unearthed as well. They all do the same thing, but some obviously specialize heavily in one way or another. One of these groups, which I've talked about before, is Black Girl Gamers. As their name suggests, they are a group of obviously black women who do consulting. It's not just for games, but for any sort of medium. Their entire motive is to just elevate black voices specifically and ensure black women especially are represented in a positive light. Which sounds noble at first, you're looking at that and going, well, okay, I mean, what's the harm there? Well, because of the whole Sweet Baby thing, people found out that Black Girl Gamers worked on Forspoken, and I've talked about how they ruined that game already. They made a really awful main character in the form of Frey Allen. They even consulted and ended up making the character, who is a young black woman living in New York, who instead of being academically smart or gifted, instead resorts to petty crimes in order to survive. Black Girl Gamers also felt it would be good representation that Frey's father would abandon her. Which, as far as stereotypes go, that's definitely a choice on their part, and a rather scathing one at that. And you eventually find out that her mom and dad separated after Frey was born, and the whole thing is just really bad stereotypical nonsense, especially when it comes to a black character. Like I said, they apparently wanted to champion black voices, yet when they were given their golden ticket on a AAA video game, they ended up making a young black woman who does crime and has no parents. Great, wonderful, very not at all good influence representation, but hey, again, that's what they settled on. But it does leave a stain on their face that they want positive representation and then go ahead and make probably one of the worst examples of that out of the gate. Anyway, so a lot of channels, like mine and others, have obviously been reporting on Sweet Baby, Black Girl Gamers, and other consulting groups like Weird and Baby Ghosts. Because you and I both know the mainstream websites aren't going to tell you the truth, so what else are we supposed to do? And a lot of info comes from sources like Twitter or websites. One of them in question is the website thatparkplace.com. I use their site often for news articles, and I'm friendly with the people over there like WW Pro or Valiant Renegade to name a few. Anyway, that Park Place had an article a few days back titled, Children's BBC host Jules Hardy calls for final purge of gamers after boycott list created for consultants Black Girl Gamers. I reported on this article a few days ago. It was about that British spokesperson Jules Hardy basically calling to purge anyone who didn't agree with their ideology from the gaming space. Well, the fine ladies over at Black Girl Gamers caught wind of that article and got really mad, to put it lightly. They responded on Twitter from their official account and had a lot to say, which includes potential legal action. Before I get into that, please don't harass this group or anything, let's just look at what they're saying and then deconstruct it. And as you'll see as we go on, they have some very weird skeletons in their closet too, so they said via Twitter, and I quote, "We are addressing the recent allegations published on thatparkplace.com about discriminatory hiring practices within Black Girl Gamers. These claims are false and were made without prior fact-checking or verification from us or our representatives. Black Girl Gamers operates as a contracting organization that collaborates with both freelancers and content creators from all backgrounds to work on various projects and initiatives to amplify underrepresented voices in gaming and make the community more inclusive. Contrary to the allegations in the article, Black Girl Gamers has contracted freelancers of all races, genders, sexual orientations, religions, and ethnic backgrounds. We have also included representation of all genders and backgrounds in our contacts at our events and in our marketing, consultation, and research projects, some of which are not publicly disclosed due to NDAs. Evidence demonstrating our commitment to diversity and inclusion, including our non-discriminatory hiring practices, is readily available and easily searchable. Upon discovering these false and defamatory allegations, we have taken steps to obtain legal counsel to take action against the publication and journalist, as well as subsequent content creators who have reshared the false allegations about our organization. We will continue to pursue further action against anyone who persists in spreading false and defamatory information about Black Girl Gamers, its founder, and its contractors and partners. We value the talent and contributions of all collaborators, and we are committed to continuing to do so. Thank you for our community for the ongoing support." End quote. So they're essentially threatening legal actions against misinformation, which is very interesting all things considered. But there's a lot of weird holes in what they're saying, not to mention I don't know how you can threaten legal action against people for simply talking about you. Or if a content creator just reads what you said publicly on a platform like Twitter is considered illegal, cause that's not how any of this works. You're free to speak on whatever you want and offer your opinion on things. If we took what this group was saying as gospel, then nobody under any circumstances could say anything about anyone at all. Even stuff like a review of a movie then would be problematic because you're giving your opinion on something that someone else made or said. This just sounds like a big, pathetic pity party for that group, and it will likely amount to nothing at all because they know there's no legal basis against any of this. And if we use the same mentality, then I could sue entire Reddit threads of users who don't like me, but of course I won't do that. Because it's called free speech, and people are allowed to like or dislike whatever they want, even if it doesn't agree with you. This whole concept of wrongthink is ridiculous in the first place. You can't sue someone for not thinking the same way as you do, otherwise everybody would be suing everyone constantly. Oh, you don't like blueberry bagels? That's it, I'm gonna sue you for everything you're worth now. You thought Captain America was in the right in Civil War? I don't know, that sounds like anti-establishment to me. Time to go to the gulag now so you can repent for your wrongthink. What they're doing here is simply an intimidation tactic, and they're hoping by saying this it will somehow reduce the online speak surrounding them. But I promise you, if Sweet Baby can't sue anyone for talking about them, Black Girl Gamers has absolutely no legal legs to stand on. As for their other claims, well, let's look into those now. So they say they don't discriminate when it comes to hiring practices. So if that's true, then surely their group employs white men or maybe even Asian men, right? Well, let's look at how you can join their community. Remember, this isn't for a job, this is simply to join their website forums and private messaging. So what is required exactly? Well, Grummz over on Twitter decided to look into it himself, and the results are weird, to say the least. Here's a screenshot of said page. It says, "We're excited that you're interested in joining our exclusive community of passionate Black women and non-binary gamers. Fill out the form to verify your identity and let us know why you'd love to be a part of our influential movement. Share your motivations and show us your passion for gaming. We can't wait to welcome you into the BGG family." Okay, so that wording alone is kind of weird, right? Joining an exclusive community of Black women and non-binary gamers. No men are allowed at all. Well, I guess if you're non-binary then you can, but you get what I mean. It gets weirder though, because if you look over here at their application form, it is bizarre to say the least. First, it asks for a photo of your face in order to join the community, so they can verify that you are indeed either a Black woman or a non-binary person. I don't know how an image of someone can confirm they're non-binary if the entire concept of that is that you don't assign yourself either male or female as a gender. So couldn't anyone just post a photo of themselves and say, "Yeah, hi, I'm non-binary"? But I guess they want a photo so they can maybe check if you have blue hair or something, and maybe that's a telltale sign, I guess. But it gets weirder even still. Remember, this is a community-like forum, so like a small Twitter if you will. And yet, if you want to join, you have to give your full legal name, email, and your phone number. Again, this is very weird because this is a community of gamers, right? Why do you need to know my full name and phone number? The obvious answer here is simply because they want to keep you accountable, and if you say or do anything that is out of line or goes against their beliefs, like if you question their motives or something, no way, you can't do that here, fellas. Because they got your name and everything. Oh, what's that? You didn't like Forspoken? Well, good luck having food on your table, I guess, because we're gonna tell your employer you're racist now. And if you delete your account, too bad. We got your email and phone number, so we can still harass and find you. And remember, that phone number has an area code, and we got your name, so it's only a matter of time before they find you and they zero in on you for having wrongthink. That's pretty weird, right? Well, it gets even weirder, fellas. Then the application asks you this: do you identify as Black? That is an actual required part of your application. But I thought Black Girl Gamers said in their Twitter response that they don't discriminate in their community based on skin color or sexuality. Well, if so, then why does it matter what color my skin is? Look, I may have a chimpanzee brain, but even I can put two and two together sometimes. This smells stinky to me, a little racist if you will. But then it gets weirder still. The next part says this. Do you identify as a woman or non-binary person? By selecting yes, you acknowledge that BGG does not permit self-identifying men to join our private community groups. Oh, okay, so if you're a man, you straight up can't join the Black Girl Gamers community. But I thought you ladies said you don't discriminate when it comes to gender and all that, but you totally do though, so I can't join your fabulous community now, can I? Why not? Is it because I'm white? Do I need to denounce my heritage that I totally have no control over whatsoever? I didn't ask to be born and pay taxes, and now I can't join the Black Girl Gamers community either? Well, shucks, fellas. It really does suck being born ethnically challenged like me, I guess. If only I was a black woman, I could peer into the ether of the beauty that is this nebulous community. But that statement doesn't make any sense anyway, so you don't allow men, but you allow non-binary people instead. So a man could just say he's non-binary and get in, right? Or does a skin color thing also block non-black, non-binary people as well? That's a lot of hoops to jump through just to join this community. It's a little confusing if I'm being honest too. So Grummz then went in deeper, and here's what he said via Twitter. Black Girl Gamers goes on to state that evidence of their non-discriminatory hiring practices is readily available and easily searchable. So I did some searches for BGG and hiring policy or consultant and was not able to find anything. In fact, the website has no published hiring policy that I could find. In fact, job posting listing are password protected and require that you first reach out to Black Girl Gamers to obtain access. This does not seem easily searchable. Well, that's weird, isn't it? So you have to first give a bunch of legal information just to join said group. Then if you want a job at said consulting group, you have to get a password, likely from the inner circle, to obtain a link to a job application that said inner circle will then approve or not. So you kinda have to suck the toes of these consultants in order to become one of them. That's really weird, dude. Grummz had a lot more to say about this via Twitter, and I quote, Black Girl Gamers' own website claims to be 100% minority operated. I've seen minority owned, but what does minority operated mean? It is unclear if they mean 100% of management or 100% of all staff. The 100% minority operated claim, the sealed job board, and the lack of a hiring policy on the website seem to contradict their claims of their hiring practices being readily available and easily searchable. So who is Black Girl Gamers? They're a consulting company founded by J. Ann Lopez and works as a consultant with gaming companies to change the way people think about gaming. They have worked with numerous gaming companies including Meta, Ubisoft, and Square Enix, where they consulted on the doomed Forspoken title. Forspoken was a game that tanked so hard that Square Enix had to close the studio. Black Girl Gamers are so upset that they are now threatening to sue anyone who shares the information in that Park Place's article or discriminates it in any way. So will they prevail? I am not an attorney, so the following is an opinion. It is my opinion that defamation claims are very difficult to prove in general, especially against a journalist. The news outlet here is not even claiming the discriminatory hiring is fact, but speculation which would put it under editorializing. Threatening to sue any gamer who spreads the article is obviously an intimidation tactic designed to scare and silence anyone who might be critical of BGG with tenuous legal basis. Black Girl Gamers are bullies and oppressors seeking to hide once again from their actions and to silence anyone who gets in their way. Their threats and intimidation tactics are disgusting and should not be tolerated. They are afraid. End quote. So, this consulting group is clearly pretty weird, all things considered. You need passwords to apply for jobs. You gotta suck the stinky toes of their group to gain access. You need to prove who you are with pictures, phone numbers, and more. It's really weird. Anonymity on the internet is totally fine. I don't think anyone needs to reveal who they are or where they live or anything in order to have an opinion. We don't need to know each other's personal lives down to a T in order to speak, and I think it's totally fine if some YouTubers out there are completely anonymous when it comes to their real-world identity. Like if you ask me what fellow YouTuber Mauler looked like, I don't know. To me, Mauler is a helmet on the internet, and that's good enough for me. He's a nice guy, he's lovely to speak to. Why do I need to know everything about him in order to chat with him? I don't. If someone started asking me for my real name and eventually started asking for my address or my blood type or whatever, I would start seriously considering that maybe the person I'm speaking to is either a weirdo trying to cancel me, or they could be a vampire. But this weird way this consulting group goes about things is obviously very odd. I figure the only reason why they ask for these sorts of things is to protect their community in their eyes. And by protect, I mean they want to ensure that everyone within it looks, acts, and thinks exactly as they do. which isn't really a community, by the way. That is like always an echo chamber where it's just a dozen of people sitting around saying exactly to every single opinion that's spoken. That doesn't sound fun at all. We don't have to agree on everything. For example, I like honey mustard a lot. You might hate it. I hate mayonnaise. I think it's gross. You probably love that stuff. It's okay. We can still be friendly. Just keep your nasty mayo away from me. And if any of you ask for my blood type, I'm gonna start hanging garlic around my doorframe. But guess what? It gets even weirder still. But guess what? It gets even weirder still. How, you may be hypothetically asking? Well, it turns out one of these black girl gamers spoke out against the group. This brings me to the YouTuber Gothix. You likely know her. And if you don't, go subscribe to her. She used to be a part of that group until she left. She saw the story surrounding this from Grummz and decided to give her own 2 cents. So here's what Gothix said about black girl gamers before she left the entire company. As a former Black Girl Gamers member, I can confidently say these people are full of crap. They do not care about diversity. They promptly kicked me out for being anti-black, aka not making an idol out of my skin color and refusing to hate white people. I was harassed for months after the fact and received an onslaught of vitriol from many of their black members. You know how Black Girl Gamers responded? They blocked me and literally scrubbed my existence off of their platforms. By the way, most of the vitriol I received from many of their members made it into the final cut of the Gothix documentary, so if you want to talk about receipts, boo-boo, I have them. Let me be clear, I have no ill will towards these people, and I'm always praying that JN and her crew will eventually have their wake-up moment just like I did. Maybe this is it. I would love to see those receipts, by the way. Gothix, if you're watching this or someone who knows her, can you please tell her to leak those receipts? I really want to see how crazy these people are behind the scenes. Gothic ends her rant with a photo of herself on the right here in the red skirt, and the lady on the left? That's Jayanne Lopez. She's the founder of Black Girl Gamers. So Gothix clearly personally knew the woman who founded the company to begin with. I really do hope she leaks those messages. It could unravel this entire conversation in such a beautifully delirious way. She further stated after the fact, to be fair, when I started streaming on Twitch, I briefly fell for the lie that it would be harder to be successful as a black woman. So I was invited to join Black Girl Gamers and the Cookout. I don't know if the latter still exists, but after a few months I started to realize something was not right. Damn, they even have a private group chat called the Cookout? Could they lean any more heavily into stereotypes if they tried? And I believe Gothix in what she's saying here, especially where she admits she was forced out of the group because she wouldn't hate on white people. And that's a really bizarre need in order to join a consulting group, and it goes against everything Black Girl Gamers said their group was about originally as well. Of course, as of now, it's a game of she said versus what the other lady said. Which is why if Gothix wants to really blow this open, she can leak the receipts. And even then, that isn't illegal to do. But in this particular case, I would argue it's actually morally correct to do so even, because they're trying to fight what they're calling misinformation by spreading their own misinformation. That's a lot of saying the word misinformation, fellas, but it's okay. I'm sure as time goes on, the truth will start to leak out, but as you can see, this whole situation surrounding this is heating up. But I don't believe they have any legal ground to stand on. You can't sue someone for disagreeing with you, and even Legal Mindset agrees with this, who's also a lawyer themselves, who said this in response to Grummz' tweet about the whole thing. The most insane thing here is that the company in question has likely made statements about other parties that are closer to defamation than those of the news outlet. There is zero chance this hits the actual malice standard, and beyond that, opening up that particular company to discovery may yield some dirty laundry that they do not want to come to light. So there you have it. From a lawyer's opinion, this entire thing cannot in any way begin to favor Black Girl Gamers. And it's all one big intimidation tactic from their little secret group that is attempting to scare and silence others into submission, but obviously it won't work. Whether it's the anti-white mentality they champion or the fact they oust and scrub the existences of black individuals they don't agree with, yeah, this is not a battle or hill they want to die on is what I'm saying. Finally, I want to cover this other story quickly surrounding a certain video game character, and given the subject matter of this video, it felt pretty good to include. Which is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I guess minor spoilers for Barret's backstory in case you don't know. This comes from DualShockers and it's titled, "I'd love a black Final Fantasy character that isn't just comic relief." This article got some traction as a lot of people started to dogpile the journalist here, asking them if they even played a Final Fantasy game to have such an opinion in the first place. If you actually read the article, you'd quickly find out that yes, this journo has indeed played the original game back in the early 2000s. And they've also played games like Final Fantasy XIII, which has Saz, another black character. who, by the way, looks a lot like Lionel Richie. I don't know why, but I just figured I'd point that out. I don't know how to segue out of that observation in a way that makes sense, but the gist here is that Final Fantasy apparently always depicts black characters as comic relief, which I don't agree with. Barret, especially in my opinion, is one of the best characters in Final Fantasy VII. And that's saying something considering how solid the entire cast is. Barret, as anyone who's played 7 knows, he's a father to a cute little munchkin named Marlene. And he's also a revolutionary fighter who fights back against Shinra in hopes of saving the planet from their industrial catastrophic agenda. He's also very funny, lighthearted at times, and acts like the big brother or even father of the entire group. Barret also, in my opinion, has one of the best designs in video games. He's instantly iconic with his big green pants, badass ripped jacket, and his huge bulging biceps. Not to mention his machine gun arm is easily, in my opinion, one of the greatest video game weapon ideas for a character ever. And that's not even including how Barret plays in Rebirth especially. Barret is literal god tier in my experience. Especially if you're playing the game on hard mode, trust me, Barret pretty much never left my team if I could help it. The man does insane damage, his survivability is through the roof, and his ability to track enemies with his attacks from afar, not to mention his amazing synergy attacks. Dude, Barret is the full package. But beyond that, when it comes to his actual story, like every other team member, his origin is marked with tragedy. And he goes from being this humble, good man who mines for ore to making a deal with the devil and losing everything. And personally, for me anyway, I connect with Barret on an emotional level too. Since his backstory involves another character named Dyne, who is Barret's best friend. Dyne lost his mind after the Coral Reactor disaster, and Barret lost his wife as well. Barret was sifting through the wreckage and was unable to find Dyne or his wife, but Barret was able to save Marlene, who is Dyne's daughter. And Barret raises Marlene as an undying devotion to his best friend's memory. So when Barret locates Dyne during the Gold Saucer arc, he discovers a man who was all but a shell of himself. And this story in particular for me resonates greatly, as in real life I lost my own father to alcoholism. And seeing this man my entire life who was indestructible and strong, capable of anything, was nothing short of a positive male role model in my life. I mean, everything I am, from my opinions to my sense of humor you see on this channel, you can thank my dad for that. But he got addicted to alcohol, and I watched as my father slowly but surely succumbed to the demon in that bottle, and it eventually destroyed him. And when I was presented with the story of Barret and Dyne in Rebirth, yeah sure I beat the original game, but obviously here it's more realized and it hit me like a train. The only moment in Rebirth that made me tear up for a second was this sequence with Barret and Dyne. Cause Dyne to me was like my father, this great man who was ruined by something he couldn't control anymore. And seeing Barret come to realize that the friend he knew his whole life, like I did with my father, was gone, it hit me where I live. That to me anyway is real representation, because clearly I'm not a 6'5" black guy with a machine gun arm. Yet, I connect to Barret deeply on a personal level, and I love his character even more now with what Rebirth did with him. Because Barret reminds me of myself that when shit hits the fan and the going gets tough, we don't crumble under pressure. Having paid all my dad's bills and the house is on top of my own while taking care of my mom and my dogs, all while working constantly during his alcoholic episodes, I never let it bring me down. Because I knew if I gave up, if I let it get to me, there was no one who could pick up the torch if I dropped it. So I suffered, I endured, and I pushed until eventually came brevity and a moment of solace. My father would eventually pass away in his sleep from a heart attack induced by alcoholism, and when he died, I didn't feel anything but hollowness. And when I see Barret staring at Dyne and knowing the great man he once knew was no longer there but a shadow of what remained, that hit me, dude. So when someone says Barret is not good representation or he's just comic relief, nah, I disagree wholeheartedly. Barret is absolutely one of the best characters in Final Fantasy period, and he's someone I identify with on a personal level. He's a troubled man, with the weight of the world on his shoulders, but he knows that if he gives up, there's no one else that can do it. So like Atlas, Barret carries that indecipherable weight, and he sometimes cracks a joke, or Yuffie annoys him with her shenanigans. But that's what life is, it's not all light and dark, and I think Barret perfectly represents this. If anything, Barret is exactly what more characters need to be like. His race is never brought up, and nobody cares that he's black in the game either. His identity and characteristics of being a heroic badass and a father figure, that shines brighter than anything beyond just his skin color. So we don't need characters that aren't like Barret. We actually need characters that are more like him than anything. And while we're at it, since Fran from Final Fantasy XII is also dark-skinned, I wouldn't mind some more dark-skinned beauties in sci-fi games and fantasy either. Cause Fran is a 10 out of 10 design, just no notes, sublime. But whether it's weird consulting groups being stupid or journals trying to say Barret and others aren't enough for representation, it's all nonsense. People are more than their skin color, and I think we need to realize that and embrace it and stop pigeonholing ourselves like these morons do instead. Well, what do you think about all of this? Let me know in the comments. As always, like, subscribe, and share this video if you enjoyed it. Thanks to my patrons and thank you for watching. Barret is the GOAT, and I'll see you in the next one.